Imagine a world where farmers only need to plant a crop once, and that same plant continues to produce food for years or even decades. No need for yearly replanting, no constant plowing, and far less labor overall. This idea may sound unrealistic today, but it's actually how many food systems worked in the past. While modern agriculture depends heavily on annual crops like wheat, rice, and corn, there's a wide range of perennial food plants that grow back season after season with minimal intervention. These perennial crops are tough. They can survive poor soil conditions, tolerate drought, and still provide nutritious harvests. For centuries, they played an important role in traditional diets around the world. However, as industrial farming expanded, these plants were gradually replaced by high-yield annual crops that fit better with large-scale machinery and commercial systems. By revisiting and developing these forgotten crops, we are not turning away from modern agriculture. We are strengthening it. Perennial food plants have the potential to support sustainable farming systems that can feed people while protecting the environment, not just for today, but for generations ahead. 5 forgotten perennial crops that could end hunger worldwide. Grow once, harvest forever. 1. Breadfruit, a tree that feeds generations. Breadfruit is one of the most remarkable perennial crops in the world because of how much food a single tree can provide over a very long period of time. Once planted, a breadfruit tree can continue producing large amounts of fruit for decades. This makes it very different from most common food crops, such as rice, corn, or wheat, which must be replanted every year and require constant labor and resources. With breadfruit, families and communities can rely on a steady food source without needing to start over each growing season. When a breadfruit tree reaches maturity, it begins to bear fruit consistently, often producing dozens or even hundreds of fruits each year. These fruits are high in carbohydrates, which makes them an excellent source of energy. They also contain fiber and essential amino acids that support basic nutrition. Because of this, breadfruit plays an important role in regions where access to diverse and nutritious food is limited. In areas facing food insecurity, having a reliable staple like breadfruit can make a real difference in daily survival. Breadfruit has been part of traditional diets for generations across tropical regions, including the Pacific Islands, parts of Africa, Southeast Asia, and the Caribbean. One of the reasons it became so important is that it requires relatively little maintenance once established. The trees are hardy, adapt well to tropical climates, and can grow with minimal inputs compared to many modern crops. This makes breadfruit especially practical for small-scale farmers and rural communities. Breadfruit's benefits and growing potential. What makes breadfruit especially exciting as a perennial food crop is its impressive yield combined with its long-term reliability. Once a breadfruit tree is fully established, it can produce anywhere from 50 to well over 100 fruits per season. Even more remarkable, this level of production can continue consistently for decades without the need for replanting. Unlike annual crops that require repeated labor, seeds, and land preparation every year, breadfruit offers a more stable and efficient food source over time. Breadfruit grows best in warm, humid climates, making it well-suited for many tropical and subtropical regions. Because it is a tree crop, it also provides environmental benefits beyond food production. Its deep root system helps prevent soil erosion, improves water retention, and supports healthier soil structure. Over time, breadfruit trees can contribute to stronger local ecosystems by stabilizing land and reducing the impact of extreme weather conditions. The fruit itself is highly versatile and easy to incorporate into everyday meals. Breadfruit can be eaten fresh when ripe or cooked in a variety of ways, including boiling, baking, roasting, or frying. It can also be dried and processed into flour, which can be used for bread, snacks, or other staple foods. This flexibility makes breadfruit adaptable to different cultural food traditions and modern diets alike. From a nutritional standpoint, breadfruit is a strong source of complex carbohydrates and contains essential amino acids that support overall health. Because of this, it has the potential to reduce reliance on imported grains such as wheat or rice, especially in countries that face ongoing food insecurity. With the right investment in planting programs and education on preparation methods, breadfruit could become a practical and sustainable tool in addressing hunger across tropical regions. 2. Jerusalem artichoke, the perennial root that keeps giving. Jerusalem artichoke is a perennial tuber crop that was once widely cultivated by indigenous peoples in North America long before modern agricultural systems became dominant. Unlike many common root crops, this plant is not grown mainly for its leaves or seeds, but for its underground tubers. These tubers store energy in the form of inulin, a naturally occurring carbohydrate that has a mild sweetness and a low glycemic impact compared to starch. Jerusalem artichoke can be eaten raw, roasted, boiled, or pickled, making it a flexible ingredient for many types of food preparation. One of the most important advantages of Jerusalem artichoke is its ability to regrow year after year once it is established. Unlike potatoes or other annual root crops that must be replanted every season, this plant continues producing tubers with minimal intervention. For farmers, this means less labor, reduced fuel use, and fewer inputs such as fertilizers and seeds. In areas where access to these resources is limited or expensive, this trait can make a major difference. Despite these benefits, Jerusalem artichoke has become relatively overlooked in modern food systems, especially in regions that prioritize high-input, short-cycle crops. However, the plant remains highly resilient and adaptable. It can grow in a wide range of soil types, tolerate poor conditions, and perform well across different climates. It also shows strong resistance to pests and environmental stress compared to many conventional crops. Jerusalem artichoke: planting, harvesting, and use. Cultivating Jerusalem artichoke is surprisingly simple, which makes it an appealing crop for anyone looking for a reliable and low-maintenance food source. One of its biggest advantages is that it is a perennial plant. This means you only need to plant it once, and it can continue producing food year after year without the need for frequent replanting. Each growing season, the plant sends up tall, sturdy stems above ground, while the real value develops underground in the form of edible tubers. These tubers can be harvested as needed rather than all at once. Farmers and home gardeners can dig them up throughout the season, using only what they need at the time. Even better, any tubers left in the soil will naturally sprout again the following year. This self-regenerating growth cycle significantly reduces labor, seed costs, and planning, making Jerusalem artichoke an especially practical choice for small-scale farming, backyard gardens, and community food plots. Beyond its ease of cultivation, Jerusalem artichoke offers important nutritional benefits. The tubers are rich in inulin, a type of carbohydrate that is digested more slowly than starch. This makes it gentler on blood sugar levels and appealing for people looking for healthier carbohydrate alternatives. It can be incorporated into a variety of meals and diets without requiring complex preparation. 3. Prairie turnip, a forgotten root from America's grasslands. The prairie turnip, scientifically known as Pediomelum esculentum, is a perennial plant native to the central grasslands of North America. For centuries, it played a major role in the diets of indigenous peoples living on the plains, long before modern farming systems were introduced. The plant grows a starchy, tuberous root commonly called breadfruit or prairie potato, which provided a reliable and energy-rich food source in environments where farming could be difficult. This root is high in carbohydrates and can be prepared in several practical ways. It can be eaten fresh after cooking, sliced and dried for later use, or ground into flour that stores well for long periods. Because of this flexibility, prairie turnip was more than just a seasonal food. It was a dependable staple that could support communities year-round. Unlike many crops grown today, it does not need to be replanted every year. The plant regrows from the same root system each season, reducing labor and making it a low-maintenance food source. Another important feature of the prairie turnip is its ability to thrive in dry grasslands and open woodlands. It is well adapted to harsh conditions, including limited rainfall and poor soils, where many modern crops struggle. Despite these advantages, the plant has been largely ignored by contemporary agriculture and replaced by crops that require more water, fertilizer, and annual planting. As concerns about climate change, drought, and food insecurity grow, the prairie turnip offers a useful example of a resilient, low-input crop. Revisiting this plant and exploring ways to cultivate it responsibly could support sustainable food systems, especially in semi-arid regions. By learning from traditional knowledge and integrating prairie turnips into modern agriculture, communities may rediscover a nutritious and reliable food source that once formed the foundation of life on the plains. Prairie turnip: growing, harvesting, and food use. Cultivating prairie turnip is not common in modern agriculture, but the plant's natural growth cycle makes it highly interesting for sustainable and long-term food production. Unlike most annual crops that must be replanted every year, prairie turnip is a perennial plant. Once established, it naturally returns season after season without the need for replanting, reducing labor and resource use over time. In its native grassland environment, prairie turnip survives harsh conditions thanks to its deep taproot. This root stores energy and nutrients during the growing season, allowing the plant to withstand dry periods, temperature shifts, and seasonal dormancy. When spring arrives, the plant regenerates using the resources stored underground. Because of this system, farmers can harvest roots from the same planting over multiple years instead of clearing and replanting fields annually. For communities dealing with ongoing food insecurity in challenging environments, prairie turnips offer more than historical curiosity. They represent a practical, resilient food source that aligns with sustainable farming goals. By reintroducing perennial crops like prairie turnip, agriculture can become more diverse, less resource-intensive, and better suited to long-term food security. 4. Arrowroot: the tropical perennial source of easy-to-digest starch. Arrowroot, Maranta arundinacea, is a perennial tropical plant best known for the fine, easily digestible starch produced from its roots. Long before it entered modern kitchens, arrowroot was cultivated by indigenous communities in the Americas as a reliable food source. Over time, its cultivation spread to other tropical regions around the world, especially in areas with warm temperatures and high humidity. The plant grows from rhizomes, which are horizontal underground stems that develop into starchy roots once the plant reaches maturity. One of arrowroot's major advantages is that these rhizomes can be harvested and replanted repeatedly. Farmers do not need to sow new seeds every year, making arrowroot less labor-intensive than many annual crops and well-suited for small-scale or low-input farming systems. Arrowroot starch is widely valued for being gentle on the digestive system. This is why it is commonly used in baby food, medical diets, and gluten-free cooking. In the kitchen, arrowroot powder works as a natural thickener for sauces, soups, and desserts, creating a clear and smooth texture without altering flavor. Compared to other root crops, Its starch performs well at lower temperatures and does not break down easily when frozen or reheated. Arrowroot's cultivation, yield and uses for nutrition. Growing arrowroot starts with planting a small section of its rhizome into fertile, well-drained soil. It thrives best in warm and moist conditions, which is why it grows naturally in many tropical and subtropical regions. Once planted, arrowroot requires relatively little attention compared to many common crops. Unlike annual plants that must be replanted every season using seeds, arrowroot is a perennial crop. Its rhizomes continue to grow underground and produce new shoots year after year, allowing the plant to spread naturally over time. This ability to regenerate makes arrowroot especially attractive for small-scale farmers and communities looking to reduce labor and production costs. Since the plant keeps coming back, growers do not need to invest as much time, money, or energy into replanting. Over several seasons, a single planting can expand into a reliable and ongoing source of food, creating a stable supply with minimal inputs. Arrowroot is also valued for the quality of its starch. The starch extracted from the rhizome is known for being easy to digest, making it suitable for people with sensitive stomachs, young children, or those with dietary limitations. When processed into arrowroot flour, it becomes a versatile ingredient that can be used in cooking and baking, while also serving as a dependable source of calories. In regions where access to nutrient-dense and affordable food is limited, arrowroot can play an important role. By integrating perennial crops like arrowroot alongside familiar staples, such as cassava or sweet potatoes, communities can diversify their food systems. This diversity helps reduce risk, improves long-term food security, and strengthens resilience during periods of economic stress, climate challenges, or food shortages. 5. Boscia senegalensis, the Sahel's hidden food tree. Boscia senegalensis, commonly known as Hanza in many parts of West Africa, is a tough perennial shrub or small tree that has adapted to survive where most food crops fail. It grows in extremely dry regions, such as the Sahel, tolerating poor soils, high temperatures, and long periods without rain. Unlike many staple crops that require regular planting and favorable conditions, Hanza continues to grow year after year with minimal human intervention. During periods of severe drought and famine, especially throughout the food crises of the 1980s in the Sahel, Hanza played a critical role in helping communities survive. When harvests of millet, sorghum, or maize failed, people turned to Hanza as a reliable source of nutrition. Its yellow berries could be eaten fresh or lightly processed, while the seeds offered even greater value. After soaking and cooking to remove natural bitterness, the seeds could be dried and ground into flour. This flour was then used as a substitute for cereals or added to porridge, making Hanza an important backup food when other options were unavailable. Today, Hanza is no longer viewed only as a famine food. Researchers, development organizations, and local communities are increasingly recognizing its potential for long-term food resilience. By integrating hardy perennial species like Hanza into local food systems, regions facing climate stress can diversify diets, reduce dependence on fragile annual crops, and improve overall food stability in challenging agricultural environments. Boscia senegalensis, growing, harvesting, and uses. Growing Boscia senegalensis offers clear advantages compared to annual crops that must be replanted every growing season. Once this perennial species is established, it can survive for many years with minimal intervention. Its deep root system and woody stems allow the plant to withstand long dry periods, then resume growth when conditions improve. This resilience makes it especially valuable in regions where rainfall is unpredictable and soils are poor. Beyond its ability to survive harsh environments, Boscia senegalensis is notable for how many useful products it provides. The plant produces edible berries, seeds, and young roots that can be consumed by people, while its leaves are commonly used as livestock fodder during dry seasons when other forage is scarce. In addition, different parts of the plant have long been used in traditional medicine and as natural pest repellents, adding to its practical value on small farms. The seeds of Boscia senegalensis are particularly versatile. In many communities, they are roasted and used as a coffee substitute, while others soak and cook the seeds before drying and grinding them into flour. This flour can then be used to prepare porridge or bread, allowing households to include the plant in everyday meals in multiple ways. However, proper preparation is essential, as the seeds are naturally bitter and may contain compounds that require soaking and rinsing to make them safe for consumption. Conclusion. As we've explored these remarkable perennial crops, from breadfruit trees that can provide reliable harvests for decades to tough, nutrient-dense roots like Jerusalem artichokes and prairie turnips, one key idea stands out. The future of food security does not have to rely on planting the same crops from scratch every single year. Perennial food plants challenge the standard agricultural model by offering long-term productivity with far fewer inputs once they are established. Unlike annual crops that demand constant tilling, replanting, fertilizers, and water, perennial plants keep growing year after year. Their deep root systems help hold soil in place, reduce erosion, and improve soil structure over time. This means healthier land, better water retention, and fewer losses during droughts or heavy rains. For farmers, this also translates into lower labor demands and reduced costs, making food production more accessible and less risky. Many of these crops are not new discoveries. They have been cultivated for generations by indigenous communities across Africa, the Americas, Asia, and the Pacific. Over time, however, modern agriculture shifted toward fast-growing annuals, often sidelining these resilient food sources. By revisiting and investing in these long-overlooked plants, communities can strengthen local food systems while respecting traditional knowledge that has already proven effective. In a world facing climate change, rising food prices, and growing inequality, perennial crops offer practical solutions. They support food independence, improve resilience to extreme weather, and provide consistent nutrition without exhausting the land. As we look for sustainable and fair ways to feed a growing population, these perennial food crops remind us that sometimes the smartest path forward is already rooted in the past. Grow once and keep feeding people for years to come.